in a moment. I'm trying to think. Okay, great. Baruch Hashem, we are on multiple platforms this morning on Zoom and on Facebook. Good morning, Shalom Aleichem. We are now Parshas Naso. Unfortunately, we find ourselves one Shabbos behind Eretz Yisrael. We as B'nai Chutz La'aretz are always catching up to the B'nai Eretz Yisrael, physically, spiritually, and now also in the world of Kriyas Torah. As last Shabbos was Naso in Eretz Yisrael, and for us it was day 2 of Shavuos, and many of us read or learned Megillas Rus over the Yom Tov. So we're going to right now learn together 5 Divrei Torah for our Shabbos table. Tonight, I invite you to join us together at 8:30 tonight for Divrei Torah and the Drasha, where I will talk about 2 topics together. One is the passing of Rabbi Lamb. I had a relationship with Rabbi Lamb, and also we'll talk about that. I'll use his Divrei Torah to comfort us and to give us perspective on what is going on around the country. Rabbi Lamb has many, many different drashos and essays that he wrote about racism throughout his career. And we will use his Torah in his memory to address the Torah's perspective on racism and what is going on today.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard or you saw it. Someone sent us a copy. The New York Times had an obit on it, the most disgusting obituary they could have, to defy. Basically, it was an insult to Rabbi Lamb Oliver Shalom. I think everybody should either write or call up the New York Times and say how disgraceful it was.
Okay, I haven't seen it. I
didn't hear it. I
didn't hear about it, but it could be another reminder that we shouldn't be supporting the New York Times. Just another reminder. You try to
send us
about that.
I haven't.
Please send us an email with that.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
This is Irv Gerber.
Okay. Let's begin. The first, so Naso is action-packed. Naso is the largest parsha in the entire Torah. It is 176 psukim. A large amount of the psukim, a big chunk of the psukim have to deal with the Nesiim, the princes who gave their gifts towards the Mishkan and their donations. And you'll look at it and you'll say they're all the same. Each one brings their own personality. We learned about the Sota. We learned about the Nazir. We learned about Birchas Kohanim, which we have been missing for these past 2 Yamim Tovim. We're going to begin today with 2 thoughts related to the Haftorah. The Haftorah for Naso is, anyone know what the Haftorah is? What's the topic for the Haftorah? It's coming off the theme of Nazirus. And Shimshon. Thank you, Nathan. Probably one of the top 5, I don't know how many we had, but one of the more famous Nazirim that we had in our history was Shimshon. So coming off that part of the parsha, which teaches us about the Nazir, we learn about the origin story, the birth of Shimshon, that it was a time of darkness in Klal Yisrael. There's no leader. The Plishtim were taking over and subjugating the Jewish people. And there was a husband and wife. The husband's name was Manoach, and the wife's name was Eshes Manoach, the wife of Manoach. That is how she was described in Mrs. Manoach, right? In the Navi. In the Gemara, she has her name. Her name was Slalfonis, Sadik Lamed Lamed, Fei Vav Nun Yud Taf, for those keeping score at home, Slalfonis. And the Navi tells us that as H.S. Manoach, Mrs. Manoach is out there and she was infertile. She was an akara. She wasn't able to have children. They seemingly married for quite some time and unable to have children. And one of every 6 or 7 couples could not have children, and they are defined as infertile. That is a very common occurrence within our communities, within our country. And so she can't have children, and in the middle of her working in the fields, a malach, an angel, comes to her and says, Mazel Tov, Bisha Tova, you're going to have a child. and he shares with her all of these rules and regulations about the child, right? That you're going to have, this child's going to be born, and you can't feed this child any wine products. This child cannot be involved in any tumah. They're going to be a nazir merechem. They're going to be a nazir from birth. That's called, in halacha, that's called nazir shimshon. If someone says, right, forever, and that's going to be, he's going to be a nazir forever. Okay, so Eishes Manoach is blown away. She's also a little scared. Was this a real malach? How do I know this is a malach? So at dinner that night, she goes to her husband and tells her husband what happened. Her husband is skeptical. Her husband is not so trusting of what happened, and he wants to see it for himself. And he's not on the same level of kedusha. He's not on the same level of prophecy of nevuah as his wife. And the malach does not come to him. In almost in a comical way, the malach comes again, he's not around, and then eventually the malach comes again, and she brings the malach to him, showing, right, we'll talk about that in a minute, why it had to work out that way, showing her, her spiritual prowess, her spiritual growth of who she was. And then the malach says the following. Look at the source sheet right now. Vayomer malach Hashem el Manoach. The malach says to Manoach, Mikol asher marti ala isha tishamer. Everything that I told your wife, you should do. Meaning all those halachos. Listen to your wife. She told you what they are, and you should follow them, for your child. Mikol asher yitzei megefen hayayin lo tochal. Anything. Any wine, anything that comes out of grapes, any grape derivative, lo tochal, right? V'yayin v'sheichar, grapes themselves you can't eat, and also wine and any types of, alcoholic wine beverages would be prohibited to drink. Chol tuma al tochal, you can't eat any tuma, or you can't be involved in any tuma situations. Kol asher tzivi siha tishmor, everything that I told her, you shall do, right? You shall do for your child. He says to him, meaning Manoach is not so following this whole thing with the angel, because he says at the end, stay here and I'll feed you, right? If he really believed this was a malach and understood what malachim do, he wouldn't say stay here and I'll feed you, because malachim don't eat. But let's we'll overlook that point for right now. But Rav Shimon Schwab, Rav Breuers, maybe some of you had some interactions with Rav Shimon Schwab back in the day in the Heights, but Rav Schwab points out a problem, an inconsistency in these psukim. Anyone see an inconsistency within this pasuk, within the first two psukim? So he says, right, the Malach says to him, everything that I told your wife you shall do. And then he says, this is it. The wine and the grapes and the tumah. And again, tishamir, tishmor, you shall do. Either he repeated it, but he just said, everything I told your wife you should do. So this is a repetition over here. So Schwab says it makes an amazing diuk in this passage. He says it's one thing for your child to be a nazir. That is, right, that's following rules and regulations. What are you going to feed your child? Where are you going to bring your child? There's certain places yet you can't, play dates. That's a tumah. You have to inspect, you have to make sure, and you have to be very, very careful about your child. But the malach says to Manoach, that's great. That's wonderful that you're going to, and that's the halacha that you're trying to, you're going to impose these things on your child. But I want to give you the secret sauce. I want to explain to you how you will get this done. And that's how he begins. He begins by saying, Mikol asher amarti l'isha tishamer. Anything that I told your wife to do for this child, tishamer means not you shall do for the child, but you shall do for who? For yourself. If you want your child to keep these halachas, and we want to ensure that he's going to, cut his hair. He's going to be, stay away from grape derivatives. How are we going to ensure that that happens? That he's going to live this life of elevated holiness and kedusha? That's if you model it for him. If it's modeled by the parents. That's the first pasuk here. Everything that I told your wife, you want to know how it's going to be effective? If you do it too, right? If we want our children to be, careful about what they say, about, that they should be honest in the words that come out of their mouths, that they speak appropriately and sensitively and thoughtfully and softly, then that's something that we need to consider for ourselves. Right? What's the phrase? Like, do as I say, not as what I do. Right? That's not a Jewish principle. That's not effective chinuch for anybody. Not Jewish. It's just not effective. It's do as I say because this is what I do. And modeling is the best and most appropriate way to share messages that are of, importance and relevance to our children. That's why Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, this first one gives you a double. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky says something really beautiful. The word that we have in Hebrew for influence. You know what the word in Hebrew for influence is?
Hashpa'a.
Hashpa. Excellent, Jerry. Hashpa'a. Hashpa. This person was so mashpia on my life, right? The hashpa. So the word hashpa'a comes from the word shipua. Shipua in Aramaic, in the Gemara, means a slant. Most roofs in New Jersey are created on a slant. It's a shipua. And Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky says, why is that? Why hashpa'a shipua? Why does influence come from the word aslant? Because that's really how it works. It doesn't work, I tell you what to do, and then you're going to do it. Maybe right now, in the short term, you accomplish something, but definitely not in the long term. But how is true hashpa'a, generated and created? It's through creating an environment where someone models the appropriate midos, and then it just rolls off the roof. Right? Just like the rain trickles down and slowly goes. It's not direct hit onto the grass, but it rolls off the roof. So too, our actions, the way that we talk, the way that we act, the way that we interact with people, all of that, the way that we daven, and the way that we learn or don't learn, that all trickles down, and that is true hashpa'a to the people around us, to our children, our grandchildren, and they learn our values mostly from what we do and what we don't do. That is the first thought from Rabbi Noach. It's a sharp insight from Rav Shimon Schwab. That's all. Second thought comes also from this story, and it's contrasted. We have another story in Tanakh where you have a malach involved in telling people about a birth of a child. When is that? When is the other, right? Way back in the day, Claire's driving Claire crazy. Avram and Sarah, right? Avram and Sarah.
Yeah.
The Medrash says by Manoach, why did Manoach keep on asking for a malach? Because he didn't believe her. He didn't believe that his wife was so holy that his wife can achieve nevuah. He didn't believe it. This wasn't the woman I married. What are you talking about? He didn't believe that his wife could achieve nevuah. Contrast that off of the story of Avram and Sarah. What happened to Avram and Sarah? Avram was told the end of Parshas Lech Lecha. I actually wrote this up a little bit in our Divrei Torah for Shabbos. Avram was told by Hashem at the end of Parshas Lech Lecha, after he got the bris milah, that you're going to have children, right? And he even said the name is going to be Yitzchak. What happened in Parshas Vayera? Parshas Vayera, the three angels come, and they tell Sarah, one of them tells Sarah himself, that Sarah is going to have children, and that's when Sarah starts laughing. So the Ramban asks, why didn't Avraham, seemingly, right, if Sarah had such a strong reaction to this, right, you can't fake it and laugh like from your belly if like you knew about this already. Like, So clearly Sarah did not know that that they were going to have children and what the child's name was going to be. She didn't know that, right? She did not know that. So the Ramban says, why not? Why didn't Avraham tell her what happened? The Ramban suggests, Ulai himtin achiloch Hashem. Maybe, he says, that he waited till she achieved the prophecy on her own. He got the message from Hashem. He believed in Sarah, and we know, Chazal say, that she had a higher level of prophecy than he did. And he wanted her to get the message in the same way that he wanted her to get the message in the same way that he did. He wanted her to have this spiritual stature, this spiritual experience, just like he did. And you contrast this is a very strong message, that we need to believe in our spouses, right? We need to believe in the people around us and, foster growth, not just for us, for ourselves, but for other people too, and to take pride in their personal growth achievements. I think that is a very strong message here, contrasting Manoach, who didn't believe, versus the Ramban, who says, Avraham, he was cheerleading on his wife throughout this entire process to ensure, right, and see her growth out to the end, that she would get, what he got as well. It's a very strong message from Manoach.
Rabbi.
Yes.
So we see throughout time that great people are born this way, where the mother is infertile, and we have great people being born, and you see basically Hashem makes the woman that way, so to solicit their prayers, right?
Yeah.
Why are these people even worthy to have a son like this? It seems their whole thing is pretty questionable here.
For Eshes Manoach, it doesn't seem like that way. For Manoach, it might be. So it could
What do
be
we know about what do we know about her? Do we know anything about her? Who she is? If she's right.
Have to.
We see with Shmuel, but we see with Hannah, basically we get a little bit of a background on her.
Yeah. I believe Chazal addressed this, and they have very good things to say about her. I don't remember. I'll be honest, I don't remember, but they have very positive things to say about Eshes Manoach and why they merited a son, Shimshon. But I will say that Shimshon himself was a challenging individual. It wasn't. It's not the same as a Shmuel. Shimshon had some rough streaks within him. Not a simple person to really pin down and understand from that perspective. But parents definitely had a schus, and it does warrant a question as to what the schus was. So we continue on with the Shemi Shmuel. Shemi Shmuel was Sakachav Rebbe, and he shares a thought in the name of his father. His father was the Avnei Nezer, one of the Gedolim of the 1800s. He wrote a sefer called the Eglei Tal and had a Tshuvos, the Avnei Nezer, and he has the following distinction. There's a following distinction in our psukim. In our, on one hand, a Kohen can't go to the cemetery unless, this is all the way back to Parshas Emor, unless it is one of his Shiva Krovim, unless it's one of the 7 direct relatives that one would sit Shiva over, as opposed to a Nazir who loses a spouse, a child, right? One of the 7 relatives is not allowed to go to the cemetery. Additionally, right, a Kohen can go, a Kohen Gadol can't go. So why is that? So the Shemi Shmuel says, it's a very sharp line here. And again, we're not talking about sensitively, we all would want to go to the cemetery, but somehow by going to a cemetery, that brings on Tumah, and that's what we're focusing on here. He says, Mishum Shakohen Kedushaso Mitzad Tatolada. A Kohen who has Kedusha, where does this Kedusha come from? It's not something that he gains on his own. The Kohen's Kedusha comes from his parents. It is something that he does nothing for. He gains nothing. He does nothing to become a Kohen, except that he's born to a father who is a Kohen. So that Kedusha only takes you so far. But a Nazir, right? A Nazir, its Kedusha comes from himself or herself. A woman can be a Nazir too. Mitzad Atzmo. The Kedusha comes Mitzad Atzmo. Therefore, it's an elevated level. That's Kedusha that one person gains on their own. And therefore, he says that's what we understand from this story with the Kohen Gadol. Why can't a Kohen Gadol go? Because a Kohen Gadol, that's something that it wasn't inherited. To be a Kohen Gadol, that's something that one needs to earn through their own personal hard work, through their own personal, hasmada, amelus, through their, closeness to a Kadosh Baruch Hu that they gained on their own. That's not something that was inherited from other people. Therefore, the Nazir and the Kohen Gadol have this elevated level of Kedusha. That's the contrast here between the two. And he says, even though a Kohen Gadol maybe can replace his father, he has to be right l'kach. Even a Kohen Gadol who replaces his father has to be somebody that is fitting to do that. Otherwise, they don't get that position just because of descent.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I'm troubled with the whole concept of a Nazir in the first place.
Yeah.
Why is a Nazir such great Kedusha? Because he decided, or she decides, not to drink wine.
Yeah.
What makes that person such a great Kadosh?
So we're taking this side. It's a big machlokas rishonim in terms of the Nazir. What is a Nazir? What's the status of a Nazir? Between the Ramban and the Rambam. We're taking the side that a Nazir is doing something positive. And he's taking upon, right, the Nazir is taking upon himself extra chumras, to be more careful in the world, and he's only doing this for himself.
Well, then I would say a person who's a devout vegetarian, he or she may think that they're I think a person who's a vegetarian has more. They don't want to eat meat because they don't want to sacrifice animals and harm animals, etc. I think they have more. To me, that makes more sense than a person who's a Nazir who decides he's not going to cut his hair and he's not going to drink wine. Not going to cut his hair because he's lazy. He doesn't want to cut his hair. There are people that are lazy, never shave.
Right, I hear you, especially during Corona. Many people are doing that.
But the whole idea of Nazir always bothered me. I still can't understand.
I hear you.
Such great Kedusha with a Nazir.
And that's one perspective, but the Torah is giving us a playbook. If one wants to take a step back from the world and do it the right way, the Kedusha U'B'Tara, this is the way to do it. This is the blueprint to do it. That's why it's done this way.
I'm still on. Oh, okay.
That's why it's performed this way. Other things are questionable. I'm not questioning vegetarians. I'm just saying that this is one thing that is done that you could do it in a way, and the Torah gives you a construct or an out or a way to do it. People are created differently. Some people need this out to, find their place in the world. And others, right, and the opposite side is a Nazir is inappropriate. It's inappropriate because one should engage in the world and enjoy the world. And this is refraining. Yet the Torah still gives, it might be based on a visceral reaction to something that somebody has done, but that is what the Torah is doing right here.
Isn't Nazir sinning in a way?
Yeah, that's the other side. That's the other side of this.
Yeah, but
that the Nazir brings a korban chatas, Michael's pointing out, because he did something wrong, either by engaging in the zeros, he did something wrong, yet the Torah allows you to, or there was something that he did wrong in the past that forced him he had to join AA. Part of AA is becoming a Nazir, to take a vow upon oneself to not, drink alcohol.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I mean, I agree with Milty and Michael. I just find it very upsetting. It's almost like a light switch.
Yeah.
Kedusha, non-Kedusha, Kedusha. It sounds like you could be like a Nazir every other month or something. And step into this Kedusha state.
And then a Nazir can't Makayim Simcha Yanto.
Right.
You're supposed to have boss of a Yayin.
Right, there you go. I was thinking the same thing, Milty.
Right.
Yeah.
Boss of a Yayin on Yanto. You can't do it if you're a Nazir.
No, you can have meat. Meat he could have.
You can have meat, but you can't have Yayin. You're supposed
You
to.
can't have the wine.
Right.
You can't have grape juice.
Right. Okay. So
Right.
Clearly here the Chevra feels Nazir. Okay. That's.
I
I have a
disagree.
dissent.
It seems to me that perhaps this person becomes more aware of Hashem all the time because he has Hashem on his mind all the time. He's not living in a secular world like we are.
Yeah.
So he comes closer through these actions.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. So the different approaches to a Nazir. Maybe next year we'll look specifically at the Nazir and try to analyze it more. Next thought.
Well, how is there like one persuading argument? Like, how does Judaism look at a Nazir? I mean, maybe we're just like the minority.
I think the beauty of Judaism is that we look at Nazir in multiple ways.
Okay.
And that for some it could be something so important, so relevant, and so significant, and so life changing for the positive.
Okay.
And for others, it's like they hit bottom. They hit the bottom rung, and they need Naziris to help them. And it's for the same halacha you could look at it in two ways. I view that as something beautiful within Torah.
Rabbi,
yeah.
if Shmuel Hanavi was a Nazir, you can't, he's one of the greats. You just can't say that Naziris is nothing.
Yeah. Shmuel Navi was a Nazir. Is one of my favorites. Shmuel is one of my favorites in all of Tanakh. He was a Nazir. He was a Nazir as well. It's not clear in the Psukim. It's alluded to in the Psukim. The Gemara in Brachos talks about it. But yeah. Next idea comes from Sota. From controversy to controversy. Baruch Hashem. Sota, Isha Sota. So Rav Kamenetsky is a very strong thought over here. And he says it like this. Is why do we deal with so many different details when it comes to Sota? We bring her through all of these, so many, bring her here, bring her there. She's got to drink this drink. And we have to have a miracle that has to occur that, either things blow up, literally, or the opposite happens and she has extreme bracha on her as a result of, because she was not unfaithful to her husband. And it seems so strange that we have to go through all of this, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu literally has to make miracles to assure the truth. And Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky says, when it comes to halacha and Torah, we have one very clear way of creating the truth, and that is through two witnesses. Al pishnayim edim yakum davar. When we have two witnesses, that's it. And why can't we just say two witnesses come in and they said they never saw her. They saw them together, but they never were together. They never were intimate. Then that should be it. Why is that not effective? Why do we need to do so much more? And Rav Yaakov says here something very, very powerful. And he says, when it comes to trust, when it comes to issues of trust, right, if you think about it, probably the most foundational midah when it comes to relationships is trust. That is the baseline. That's the foundation of all marriages are built on trust. And really all relationships are built on trust. When trust is violated, it is not enough to just have two witnesses. That wouldn't be enough. And clearly trust was violated here through how you got to become a sota. And the only way to vindicate and to bring out the truth and to restore faithfulness and to restore trust is through a miracle. Because when trust is broken, it is very hard to restore the trust. And that's why Chazal say, Gadol Shalom Shemin Ish Ishto. Great is peace between husband and wife, because the Torah said, right? The Torah allows God's name to be erased for the sake of Shalom Bayis. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky says here, that's why, what do we say, what the bracha, we give it every Shavuot brachos, time and time again, that you should build a Bayis Ne'eman b'Yisrael. What is a Bayis Ne'eman? It should be a house that is trusting, that there's a house that is fostering this notion of trust between husband and wife, and how valuable and how important that is, that if it was violated, that miracles need to be created literally in order to ensure that that trust could be restored. Okay, last thought comes from.
It's still frozen salad that I won't be able to cook it even tomorrow. So I'll take it out.
Last thought comes from Mordechai Willig. Rabbi Willig, he's been one of our heroes during this time. The Piskei Teshuvos that are coming out. Rabbi Willig, and I think this is his first sefer that he ever wrote. It's called Am Mordechai on Meseches and Hilchos Brachos. And in the introduction to his sefer, he writes the following. He says, we have the bracha Birchos Kohanim. The bracha, right, in Chazar Hashatz, what do we say? We call that bracha a bracha anyone know? Ha-Meshuleshes Batorah. Right, call it a 3-tiered bracha. Now, what does that mean, a 3-tiered bracha? He's bothered by that language because that's pretty obvious. There are 3 psukim. Yivrecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Ya'ir Hashem panav elecha v'yichuneka, and Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. It's 3 psukim. So what does it mean, a 3-tiered bracha? So he makes the following suggestion, and using Rashi as his guide. He says, what does it mean, Yivrecha Hashem v'yishmerecha? God should bless you, and you should be protected. He says, God should bless you means that Hashem should give you lots of parnasa. We should have money. We should not be worried about that. V'yishmerecha, Rashi says, Hashem should protect you from mazikin, from danger. And he says, what does this mean? He says, the bracha of bountiful amounts of money is not always a bracha. That for some people could turn very quickly into a klala. Mo money, mo problems, as we say, right? And that could be a danger to individuals. So what does the first bracha say? Yirech Hashem should bless you with the money, but v'yishmerecha, that all of the troubles that come along with that, Hashem should protect you from that. So what do you see here? That the 3-tiered bracha is every single bracha has a bracha and a protection from the bracha itself. So that is the first part of the bracha. And then additionally, what is Ya'ir Hashem panav elecha v'yichuneka? Rashi says, Ya'ir Hashem should enlighten you, give you light. That refers to light within Torah, the Birchas HaTorah. And he says sometimes what happens, that some people can abrogate Torah or use Torah too much and their scholarliness in Torah for their own benefit, or it could make them haughty and arrogant. So the end of the bracha is V'chuneka, that a Kadosh Baruch Hu should give you chen, should grant you grace and favor in his eyes, and should keep you humble and straight as you continue your pursuit in Talmud Torah. Again, there's a bracha, and every bracha that we get could potentially be, lo aleinu, God forbid, a klala, and that's how the bracha concludes. Finally, Yisa Hashem panav elecha. Yisa Hashem panav elecha, that Hashem should grant you panim, right? Hashem should face towards you. Hashem should give you, panim should give you some say chelek in Torah, and others say that Akash Baruch Hu should give you brachos. Now, when it comes to this, that not only that, but Akash Baruch Hu Yisach Shapanav Ilacha, that you should be engaged in the world, that you should be engaged in the world itself. And we know that also comes, right? Akash Baruch Hu should be hatzlacha when you're engaged in the world. That within itself, that's obvious. It's fraught with difficulties and challenges and questions and, difficult situations that we may find ourselves in. So how does the bracha end? V'yasem l'cha shalom. Shalom here means not just peace, but it means synthesis, balance. There should always be appropriate balance between our mammon that we have, between the Torah that we have and the brachos that we have in our lives, that we should experience the true bracha, which is to have balance in everything that we have in our lives, appreciate what we have, but experience that with tremendous, tremendous balance. So today, and that's a true bracha. Today we learned two thoughts from Manoach. Number one is Manoach's ultimate bracha of how he was going to sustain and ensure that his child Shimshon was going to keep the laws of Nazirus. That was by him by him doing it himself. Number two, Manoach didn't believe in his wife. He didn't believe in the spiritual strength and power of his wife, as opposed to Avraham, who always encouraged Sarah to grow more and more in her Yiddishkeit. What you gain versus you inherit. That was a big discussion about Nazirus. You had the Nazir versus the Kohen. The Kedusha we gain versus the Kedusha we inherit. We discussed the Sota, why so many details. It's all about restoring trust, and that is something that is not so easy to restore. And finally, we discussed the understanding of the bracha, according to Rabbi Willig. The three-tiered bracha means every single bracha that we have in our lives also could turn into a klala, so it needs extra protection within itself. Okay, I wanted to wish everybody a good Shabbos. A good Shabbos, a healthy Shabbos, safe Shabbos, and looking forward to seeing everybody as Rad Hashem.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Question,
Yes.
why do we have in the Torah two examples, a Sower, Mower, and a Sota, which never came to occur?
Sota came to occur. We never said that that's Sota.
Pardon me?
Gemara never says that that's Sota.
We had do we have a Sower, Mower? We never had an example, and Sota we didn't either, did we?
The Gemara says that the Gemara says the three things that never happened